The growth is in the apology. What's up, everybody? My name's Elliot. This is another episode of Urban Sage. Tonight I went out. I went to church, and I got out the service, and I went to this coffee shop right next door. They were kind of busy, but it wasn't too busy. And I was like, "Yo, let me get a cup of coffee." And he was like, "All right," And he was kind of running around. And he started the coffee, and he started doing something else. And you know, then the cup of coffee was made in the coffee maker, and like the Keurig machine, making a single cup of coffee. And it was just right there. Like he was just running around, busy, and I was like, all right. And then he forgot, right? So I'm just kind of standing there, and he's doing nothing, and I'm like, what about my cup of coffee? And man, I must have been standing there for almost 10 minutes. And, it got to the point where I just turned around and I left. I was like, whatever, I'm out this. And I must have got 3, 4 blocks away. And I just couldn't walk any further. I couldn't walk any further with that on my heart. Just being like, man, I just totally blew this guy. I totally just blew this guy off. And I totally just said, you know what? Screw you and your coffee and your poor service. I'm getting out of here. All right? And I just couldn't take another step. And as soon as I turned around, that's when the change happened. That's when the growth happened. I was walking back to the coffee shop, and I was saying, you will never reach a point of change in your life if you don't have the ability to say I'm sorry. You will never reach a point of growth in your life that is really going to implement a substantial level of change if you don't have the ability to say I was wrong. Until you can say I was wrong and I didn't make the right decision, I didn't make the right choice, the same things will continuously happen over and over and over again. So until you can say I'm wrong, until you can say I made a mistake, until this moment of understanding is had, the ability, really the presence of an opportunity isn't available that is going to allow significant and substantial change to occur. But the amazing part is that as soon as that awareness of I was wrong, I made a mistake, I owe an apology, is noticed, that is simultaneously the moment that growth begins to develop, right? And then it grows exponentially from that point, determined by how much action is taken forth based on that awareness. Like, I could have turned around and I could have said, man, I owe this guy an apology. I made a mistake. I was wrong. And then not had gone back, right? But what I had done was I actually went back. I went back to the coffee shop. And it was funny, when I came back to the shop, he didn't even notice that I left. He was like, oh my gosh, your cup of coffee, right? And he goes back. But some other, I guess the co-owner, he poured it out. Because there was 2 guys. And I told him, I was like, yo, I had left, I came back, I want another cup of coffee, I'll pay for both. And he was like, you're my guest, like, I'm so sorry, like, this is on me, please, like, forgive me, whatever. And I was like, nah, and I still paid for the cup of coffee. But, the entire dynamic of the relationship completely revolutionized in that moment, because what happens when you make an apology, when you say I'm sorry, when you go back and you right a wrong or you right a misunderstanding, it's saying more than I'm sorry. It's saying more than I'm acknowledging that I made a mistake, let me right it. What is actually being acknowledged, that it's saying, wow, I value our relationship enough to go out on a limb and get vulnerable and expose my poor qualities. It's my I am I'm unveiling, my my imperfections, right? And in doing that, it's really saying, I value more. I value you more than I value me saving my face or me saving my image, right? And there's so much to be gained in that moment. There's so much to be gained when you say, I value our relationship, I value you more than I value me looking good. Because that is an ideology that can house a really flourishing relationship, because rather than trying to build a relationship that avoids these vulnerable moments, or build a relationship that can withstand the implementation of imperfections, what's actually happening is you're laying those as the foundation of the relationship. And in doing that, there's an understanding that transcends the behavior. And that transcendence is saying, I am willing to expose, and I'm willing to lay my faults out in front of both of us, so we can actually have something of value, rather than trying to uphold this image of value. And it's really something that is quite, I think is pretty amazing, honestly, right? And this understanding, this revolutionary experience, this monumentous relationship cannot be formed, one, if a mistake isn't had. Because if there's no mistake, then there's no apology. And two, the apology has to be made, right? Because there's a difference between acknowledging that I need to make an apology and actually making the apology, right? Like, there's a difference between saying there are weeds in my garden and uprooting the weeds of my garden, right? And, I encourage you guys to just kind of do this with your own lives, either maybe a circumstance that's present right now, or, maybe one that kind of crops up as life goes on. Like, if a moment happens where, maybe a misunderstanding was had, or, you were wrong, think about, one, this is for another podcast, but another episode, but you don't have to treat someone the same way that they treat you. You can treat someone better than the way that they treated you, right? So when maybe you were wrong, or maybe a misunderstanding had transpired, ask yourself, is this the type of person that I want to represent myself as? If a relationship has two parts, is this the way that I want to express my half, right? And ask yourself that. And then if you come to the point where you're like, maybe I owe an apology, I would do it. I would really do it. It's it's something that really leads to a really miraculous event transpire. And it's really a very rare seed that doesn't always, the opportunity to plant that seed isn't always there, because the awareness of acknowledging that a wrong needs to be made right, it doesn't happen so often. So if this moment in your life is made apparent to you, I really wholeheartedly recommend that you take advantage of this moment and you apologize and you say I'm sorry, and find out for yourself what grows from that moment, because I guarantee you it's going to be something of significance and of value if you allow it to be that. So, the change happens in the apology. I could have kept walking. I could have just, kept on living my life. And, the relationship that was formed with the dude at the coffee shop never would have been had, right? And then B, like, I never would have had the experience that allowed me to make this recording, right? And then there's other circumstances that happen. Like, I saw my friend in the coffee shop, and like I got to say what's up to him. I got to add value to his life, and he got to add value to my life. And a sub relationship or a parallel relationship got to be more further developed because of this apology I made, and because I didn't. And this isn't to like uphold my like character. It's just to say like, this is what happens when this type of behavior is made. When like for anybody, this is just my experience. But like the purpose transcends the product, right? So just because like I apologize and he apologized, like what stems from that is much more value, right? So think about that. Think about like how much further the results of your actions will go than just the moment of when you right the wrong. And there's always like some deeper, more underlying existence within the behavior, the thought, or the event. And think about like, is that something that you want to hold on to? Because like if I have to make an apology, that means that there's like some resentment or animosity or anger, and like as much as I want to like let myself go from that and be like, what, like maybe I don't owe an apology or whatever, just the thought of me asking myself, do I owe an apology, it probably presumptively leads to the idea that I do, right? And on some minor level, holding on to that is painful, right? And I don't think anybody should be living a life that is rooted or has unnecessary pain. Like purposeful pain is a whole other thing, but unnecessary pain shouldn't be something that should be purposefully engaged with. So think about that. If there's something that you can do to allow yourself to not engage with suffering, I really encourage you to do that. Maybe that means saying I'm sorry. Maybe that means saying I'm wrong or I made a mistake. But find out for yourself, because the result of your actions is gonna be so substantial. So it's just something I want to talk about before I go to sleep. It's late, but it's something of value I wanted to say, and it's something I wanted to express. So, change happens in the apology, and don't forget that. Otherwise, why would you make an apology, right? Why would you make an apology if nothing's going to change from it? So, thank you guys. This has been another episode of Urban Sage. My name's Elliot. Please drop a like, a comment, subscribe, share. If you got something out of this recording, I'm sure somebody else would too. So, thanks you guys. Until next time.